Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. On today's episode, this one might be a little bit of a short one. I'm just going to let you know now. Although I don't know, I'm not that good at predicting, so we're just going to kind of see how things go. But in tonight's episode, we're going to be discussing AEW results from last night, as well as tonight's Impact Wrestling, and give some predictions and thoughts on that. Now, starting with AEW last night, we paid tribute to one of the best professional wrestlers in this business, one of the trendsetters, a guy who is huge into hardcore wrestling, a guy who is huge for this sport, Jay Briscoe. Jay Briscoe, thank you for everything you've done in this business. I've said it on this is my third video saying this, and I can't make enough videos about you, man. You are one of the top dogs in this sport. You are one of the best wrestlers in this sport. You have made waves in this sport, and you and your brother have completely changed tag team wrestling into what it is today. And I don't think half of the tag teams that we see, I don't think half of the stuff we see in tag team matches would be here without the likes of you two, without you. And I thank you for that, my brother, and may you truly rest in peace. Reach for the sky, as you always say. We saw a beautiful, beautiful tribute to Jay. We saw, pictures of him and his daughters, him and his wife, him and his brother and his father, and it truly is beautiful. It truly is upsetting to see that he's no longer with his family. However, it is good to know in the sense that he is in a good place. It's good to know that he's in a good place, and although he's gone, um, he will always be missed, and he will always be loved. And he loved his family, he loved his brother, and no one can ever take that from any of them. No one can ever take that from him, and no one can ever take that for granted. He was a tremendous athlete, tremendous wrestler, and a tremendous person. And may his soul truly rest in peace. Now, in memory of Jay Briscoe last night, we saw his brother Mark wrestle Jay Lethal. We saw Mark come out with both tag titles. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. However, that being said, last night we saw Mark Briscoe versus Jay Lethal in a tremendous match. These two put pure emotion into it. They put pure... It was a genuine Ring of Honor classic, in my opinion. And Mark Briscoe did get the win. My prediction was correct. And Jay Lethal did hug Mark Briscoe after the match. He kind of broke character. He was in tears. He was truly tremendously upset. And I would be too. And I loved that Mark Briscoe and the rest of the AEW locker room were out there, and they were, they were clapping, and they were just in pure celebration. And Mark Briscoe seemed Mark Briscoe, very emotional, but also very positive, which I think was very helpful. And the entire locker room very supportive. Giving bunches of hugs to Mark, and it was a truly amazing sight to see. And Mark, this is to you as well. I hope you are doing okay in this time, and I hope you and the rest of your family are hanging in there as best you can. Now, moving on, we saw the TNT Championship be defended by Darby Allin against Buddy Matthews. Now, I said this last night. My prediction was Darby Allin. However, I really wanted to see Buddy Matthews win. I will say this was a good match for Buddy Matthews in the sense that he pulled off some tremendous wrestling, as always. He got us a spot to really show himself. He really got to kind of put himself in the light for a moment, which was, it's important. And we did see Jay Lethal. Sorry, we did see Darby Allin retain the TNT Championship and beat Buddy Matthews. However, that being said, no one can take anything away from Buddy Matthews. He put on an instant classic with Darby Allin, and I think he's only beginning. And I can't wait until Buddy Matthews starts to go a little more in depth to his singles career in AEW and a little out of the darkness that is the House of Black. And I can only imagine who Darby Allin's next opponent's going to be for the TNT Championship. He's already defended against Juice Robinson, Kushida, Buddy Matthews. multiple wrestlers, a number of wrestlers, and I can't wait to see his next opponent. It will 100% be a fight. It'll 100% be a very interesting matchup between these guys, and I'm very, very excited for this. Now, moving on down the list, we saw Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara take on Action Andretti and Ricky Starks, and like I had said in my prediction last night, Jericho and Guevara did get the win. And this is not to take anything away from Action Andretti and Ricky Starks. I think they're tremendous wrestlers, but I think that after the number of losses the JAS have suffered from these two, I think they're ready. I think they're prepared, and I think they are going to start, making this a fair rivalry in the sense that they're going to start climbing up now, and they're going to start getting the jump on Ricky Starks and on Action Andretti. And that's something those two are going to have to look out for, because they are a two-man team, right? They don't have an entire family. They don't have an entire faction like the JAS, and so they're going to have to be prepared. They're going to have to be ready for this. Now, we also saw Jungle Hook take on Ethan Page and Matt Hardy, and my prediction was right. We saw Jungle Hook take on Hardy and Page. We saw Jungle Hook beat Hardy and Page, and it doesn't surprise me. However, I said it once, I'll say it again. I am getting annoyed. I'm getting a little tired of this idea of Jungle Hook. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I've never really been the biggest fan of it. And I'm just going to say this now. I would have rather seen Matt Hardy and Ethan Page win. Because Ethan Page, every time you think he's going to be used properly in AEW, for once, he doesn't get used properly. And it pisses me off. This guy is a good athlete. He is a good wrestler. He deserves this. And AEW is treating him like he's nothing, and it is upsetting me. On top of that, you have Matt Hardy, who hasn't been used properly. And honestly, the only times he was used in a good light at all was when his brother Jeff was in, right? Like, it's like, okay, if you don't care about Matt Hardy, then stop using him. Like, just release him then. Because I think at this point, Matt Hardy would be better off in WWE or Impact Wrestling. Like, put the Hardys back in Impact Wrestling. Do another Decay versus Hardys match. I'm sure everyone would love that. Don't do whatever it is you're doing right now, because that's not even entertaining. That's just sad and embarrassing and disrespectful to a wrestler who has been putting his body through hell for years. For the fans, for the people that love him, and you're going to sign a contract for him and then just treat him like dirt. And I don't like that. I've never liked that. But moving on, we also saw Bryan Danielson versus the Machine, Brian Cage, and we did see Bryan Danielson defeat Cage. And on top of that, this has got to be a great moment for Bryan Danielson, because he's only getting closer. He's only getting further, and so that's huge for him. Now, we also saw Toni Storm versus Ruby Soho. Now, this is weird. I believe we were supposed to see a triple threat match, not this. Maybe I was wrong. However, yeah. Oh, okay. So here's some news I just found out. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, unable to compete due to injury. Oh, God, this is not good. Honestly, to be quite honest with you, I think Dr. Britt Baker is one of the best they have in the women's division. Her not being able to compete is really going to set them back. However, this match in general, Toni Storm and Ruby Soho, is an interesting match. Now, I did say in my predictions that I thought Toni Storm was going to win. However, it looks like I was wrong. Ruby Soho did get the victory, which is interesting to me. However, I do think this is, good for Ruby, because since coming back, Ruby Soho has been on a dominant streak. She has taken on Ty Mello. She took on Ty Mello and Anna Jay in a street fight, and now she just defeated Toni Storm, who was a former AEW Women's World Champion. If you ask me, Ruby Soho is climbing her way up the ladder, and she is getting closer and closer to having her moment for the AEW Women's World Championship, like she did when she first came to AEW. And I think Ruby Soho needs it. I think they're finally starting to utilize Ruby Soho in a good light for once, and they need to keep her on this track. They need to keep her on this amazing track right now, because I'm going to be honest, I'm actually starting to get very pleased with the AEW Women's Division. There was a point in time where it was good, but it wasn't where it should have been. It is starting to get much better. The only thing they need to change is they need to give Jade Cargill more respect. And honestly, at this point, when she's on Rampage, they just need to start utilizing her more. Like, give her more time. Give her more match time. Stop cutting her matches to like 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 3 minutes. Give her more time. Now, those were our matches in terms of AEW. But moving on to tonight's Impact Wrestling, I'm going to give predictions and such. We will see a golden six-shooter six-way elimination match where we see Rhino versus Moose versus Chris Sabin versus Eddie Edwards versus Rich Swann versus Sami Callihan. Now, this is interesting, and I'm going to go through every one of these opponents. Rhino, obviously with the gore, obviously this guy who's been wrestling since ECW, WCW, WWE. This guy's been incredible. He's incredibly talented, a true tremendous athlete, and personally, I don't see him winning this just due to the simple fact that like he's more of a tag team wrestler at this point, and I'm sorry to say it, but it's just kind of where it is. As for Moose, I think Moose is in a good position right now, but I also think after his unfortunate loss to Joe Hendry, I think this is going to set him back in the sense that you now have a guy who's being looked at, right? Because Santino Marella is going to be watching. He's going to be looking and waiting and making sure that Moose doesn't do anything underhanded. And so I think that's going to put a target on the back of Moose. You also have Chris Sabin, who is one half of the New Japan Strong Tag Team Champions, as well as one half of the Impact Tag Team Champions. And Sabin's a great athlete. However, I'm not sure I see him coming out on top in this yet. I don't think this is his moment yet. You also have Eddie Edwards, who had an impressive victory over that of Jonathan Gresham at was it Hard to Kill? Yeah, at Hard to Kill. And it was great. However, PCO got involved in the end. And so that's going to kind of set Eddie Edwards into a rivalry with PCO. Rich Swann, I'm sorry, but no way. The dude lost to Steve Macklin. Rich Swann's not in a position right now to win that to win this match. I don't think. I think Rich Swann needs to be built up a little bit more. I think Rich Swann needs a little bit more positive before he can go into a match like this and come out the victor. Now, Sami Callihan. Honestly, Sami Callihan's my prediction for this. Because Sami Callihan has turned a new leaf. He's with the design, and he's been doing his initiations. He's been turning more and more into this new character, this new persona. I think this is going to be Sami Callihan's moment. I don't think he's going to let down the design. I really genuinely do not think for a minute that Sami Callihan is going to lose this. So he's my pick for this. Now we're going to see the Impact Knockouts Tag Team titles defended when the Death Dolls take on Giselle Shaw and TBD. Now, to be quite honest with you, I don't know much about Giselle Shaw or TBD. However, I do know a lot about the Death Dolls. I do know they have been losing some matches. I do know they're in a little bit of, a situation. However, that being said, I think the Death Dolls are an impressive team, and I don't think they're going to lose them on a basic Impact Wrestling Thursday night. And so my prediction for this is the Death Dolls are going to retain their titles. Now, we also are going to see Trey Miguel take on Mike Jackson. I don't know Mike Jackson very well. I'm going to go with Trey Miguel. Trey Miguel seems to be turning into almost a heel. He's doing a little more underhanded tactics. He's the X Division champion. I think Trey Miguel's going to win this one. And then finally, we have the major players, Brian Myers and Matt Cardona, taking on Bullet Club, Ace Austin, and Chris Bay. Now, Ace Austin and Chris Bay pulled off what was a tremendous moment with the Motor City Machine Guns at Hard to Kill. my prediction for this is Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I think they deserve this moment. I think they need this moment. And I kind of think that's what the idea of Hard to Kill was. It was to kind of put Chris Bay and Ace Austin over just a little bit more, because these two are tremendous wrestlers. And they really weren't getting their respect for a while until they joined Bullet Club, until they kind of went into that new light where they're finally starting to kind of turn into something a little bit together now, and they have a great in-ring chemistry as a tag team. And so I'm gonna go with Bullet Club. I'm gonna go with Ace Austin and Chris Bay as my prediction, and we'll find out on tomorrow's episode if I'm right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a bit of a shorter one, but maybe you like that, maybe you don't. I don't know. Leave it down in the comment section below. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, thank you for thank you for watching, as always, and I will catch you in tomorrow's episode. Peace out.